They say it takes 3 to 5 years to properly assess the success, or lack thereof, of a team's draft class. We say it's no fun to wait that long. You can immediately grade how all 32 teams did in the 2019 NFL Draft based on the level of talent they acquired and how well they did to address their needs for both now and the near future. To be fair, you also have to consider whether a team is a contender that had to pick more with this season in mind or a rebuilding team that could afford to take more developmental prospects. All 254 picks in the 2019 NFL Draft, which teams aced their 7-round tests with multiple winning selections, and which teams got schooled with questionable picks. Here's assigning an initial good or bad letter on them all. NFL Draft Grades, ranking best, worst 2019 draft classes grade, A1. New England Patriots whom they drafted, W.R. N'Keal Harry, C.B. Joejuan Williams, DeChase Winovich, Herbe Damian Harris, Otyodi Nwai-Kahuste, G. Jolt Froholt, QB Jarrett Stidham, D.T. Byron Cowart, P. Jake Bailey, C.B. Ken Webster. Bill Belichick had a ton of picks and used them well to manipulate the board. He replenished Tom Brady's offensive skill support staff, and both Williams and Winovich can be versatile defensive stars soon. Stidham is a Jimmy Garoppolo-like stash behind Brady. Kahuste and Froholt are strong offensive line contingencies. Bender, for now. Belichick, Pats had the smartest draft too. Oakland Raiders whom they drafted, DeClellan Ferrell, R.B. Josh Jacobs, S. Jonathan Abram, C.B. Trayvon Mullen, DeMax Crosby, C.B. Isaiah Johnson, Tay Foster Moreau, W.R. Hunter Renfrow, DeQuinton Bell. Turns out John Gruden's championship experience and Mike Mayock's years of ace draft analysis work pretty well together in rebuilding a roster. They went right down the line in filling key holes and finding good value with Ferrell, Jacobs, Abram, Mullen, Moreau, and Renfrow. 3. Washington Redskins whom they drafted, QB Dwayne Haskins, OLB Montez Sweat, W.R. Terry McLaurin, Herbe Bryce Love, G. Wes Martin, C. Ross Bierschbaker, OLB Cole Holcomb, W.R. Kelvin Harmon, C.B. Jimmy Moreland, OLB Jordan Brailford. Daniel Snyder and Bruce Allen succeeded in cooling all the pre-draft heat on them. They didn't need to move to land franchise passer Haskins, and they got him 2 key targets in McLaurin, a former Buckeyes teammate of Haskins, and the underrated Harmon. Sweat was a steal with a trade back into late in the first round. Love is a good stash behind Darius Juice. This is Washington's best overall haul in years. Bender, Redskins turn up pressure on Giants, Jones with Haskins pick 4. Arizona Cardinals whom they drafted, QB Kyler Murray, CB Byron Murphy, WR Andy Isabella, DeZach Allen, WR Hakeem Butler, WR Kezian Johnson, C. Lamont Gaillard, Joshua Miles, DeMichael Daugb, Tay Caleb Wilson. They opened the draft with a bang, and whatever you think about Murray, they've been committed to maximizing his dynamic playmaking with new coach Cliff Kingsbury from early in the process. Isabella gives them needed juice in the slot, and Butler, a great value, can end up succeeding Larry Fitzgerald. Murphy and Allen were also good first-round gets to fill specific defensive needs. This was a shrewd rebound for Steve Keim, with impressive volume to boot. Hoover, Cardinals, Kingsbury set precedent with Murray choice 5. Baltimore Ravens whom they drafted, W.R. Marquise Brown, OLB Jalen Ferguson, W.R. Miles Boykin, Herbe Justice Hill, G. Ben Powers, D.T. Dalen Mack, QB Trace McSorley. Eric DeCosta came out swinging in the Ravens' first post-Ozzie Newsome draft. Brown and Boykin can combine to be Lamar Jackson's go-to guys for a long time. Ferguson is set up to help them immediately after they lost Terrell Suggs and Zadarius Smith. Hill is a strong complement to Mark Ingram. McSorley is an intriguing developmental prospect behind Jackson. Grade, A6. Philadelphia Eagles whom they drafted, Andre Dillard, Herbe Miles Sanders, WRJJ, Arcega Whiteside, DeSharif Miller, QB Clayton Thorson. Howie Roseman was thinking ahead with offensive reinforcements, with Dillard as a near-future left tackle and Sanders and Arcega Whiteside fitting well into their running and passing plans. Miller is their kind of pass rusher, while Thorson is the ideal young backup to develop behind Carson Wentz. It's a compact class, but a solid 1.7. Pittsburgh Steelers whom they drafted: ILB Devin Bush, WR Deontay Johnson, CB Justin Lane, RB Benny Snell, T Zach Gentry, OLB Sutton Smith, DT Isaiah Buggs, ILB Ulysses Gilbert, OT Derwin Gray. The Steelers know what kind of players fit their offensive and defensive systems, and GM Kevin Colbert went right for them. Johnson and Snell made sense after the departures of Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. Gentry is a good replacement for Jesse James. Watch out for Buggs being a big steal. Bender, Bush, Steelers a perfect match. Grade, B+8. Los Angeles Chargers whom they drafted: DT Jerry Tillery, S. Nasir Adderley, OT Trey Pipkins, ILB Drew Tranquill, QB Easton Stick, OLB Emma Buell, DT Cortez Broughton. Tom Telesco knew his team needed defense help now to prop up the reopened playoff window with Phillip Rivers, and the trio of Tillery, Tranquill and Adderley can contribute early. They still thought about life after Rivers with coach pleasing Stick. 9. Denver Broncos whom they drafted: Noah Fant, OT/G Dalton Risner, QB Drew Lock, DT Drummond Jones, OLB Justin Hollins, WR Juwan Winfrey. Make that 2 consecutive sweet drafts for John Elway. Fant, Risner, Lock and Jones address key needs, and the latter 3 were projected first-rounders at one point. If Lock turns out to be a franchise passer as a second-rounder, then Elway will have redeemed himself and put that bridge quarterback life behind his team. 10. Jacksonville Jaguars whom they drafted: /OLB Josh Allen, OT Jawan Taylor, Josh Oliver, S. Quincy Williams, RB Raquel Armstead, QB Gardner Minshew, DT Dontavius Russell. Dave Caldwell probably would have been happy at one point with Taylor in the first round, but he wound up getting him in the second and took advantage of other teams passing on the can't-miss edge pass rusher/cover man Allen. Armstead and Minshew are ideal backups to have behind Leonard Fournette and Nick Foles, respectively. 11. Minnesota Vikings whom they drafted: C. Garrett Bradbury, Tay Irv Smith, RB Alexander Madison, G. Drew Samia, ILB Cameron Smith, DT Armin Watts, S. Marcus Epps, Otto Udo, CB Chris Boyd, WR Dylan Mitchell, WR Olabisi Johnson, LS Austin Cutting. Rick Spielman knew he had to upgrade the offensive line for Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins, but he didn't ignore getting insurance for Cook and expanding the group of receivers for Cousins. Smith, Udo and Boyd all had the potential to go much earlier in the draft. Bradbury will be their O-line anchor for a decade. 12. Carolina Panthers whom they drafted: DeBrian Burns, OT Greg Little, QB Will Grier, /OLB Christian Miller, RB Jordan Scarlett, OT Dennis Daly, WR Terry Godwin. Marty Hurney hit it out of the park in addressing the team's biggest needs up front with Burns and Little for the edge. He also wise to invest a little higher pick on Grier to get better Cam Newton insurance. Miller was a sneaky pickup for Ron Rivera's planned hybrid defense. Scarlett was an offbeat choice in their quest for an understudy to Christian McCaffrey. Grade, B13. New York Jets whom they drafted: DT Quinnen Williams, OLB J. Kai Polite, Chuma Edoga, Trevon Wesco, OLB Blake Cashman, CB Blessu and Austin. Mike McCagnon had to meet the defensive demands of Greg Williams after delivering Le'Veon Bell to Adam Gaze's offense. Williams was a home run and Polite was great value. The Jets did just okay with the rest of their limited haul. 14. Buffalo Bills whom they drafted: DT Ed Oliver, G. Cody Ford, RB Devin Singletary, Tay Dawson Knox, OLB Vasian Joseph, S. Jaquan Johnson, Darrell Johnson, Tay Tommy Sweeney. Brandon Beane, in essence, got 2 first-rounders in Oliver and Ford. Knox and Sweeney improved the security blanket options for Josh Allen. Even in an aging backfield, Singletary can carve out a key role in not too long a time. 15. Houston Texans whom they drafted: Titus Howard, CB Lonnie Johnson, Max Sharping, Kahale Waring, Charles Omenihu, CB Xavier Crawford, RB Cullen Gillespie. Brian Gain had 2 missions: get starting caliber offensive tackles and replenish the secondary depth. Both were accomplished to a decent degree. Gain also managed to address tight end and running back. Grade, B16. New York Giants whom they drafted, QB Daniel Jones, DT Dexter Lawrence, CB DeAndre Baker, D/OLB Oshun Isaiah Means, CB Julian Love, ILB Ryan Connolly, WR Darius Slayton, CB Corey Ballantyne, OT George Osifo J, DT Christopher Slayton. For all the heat Dave Gettleman got for taking Jones way too early, the Giants can't be faulted for backing up their belief that he will be a franchise passer and the ideal successor to Eli Manning. Lawrence, Baker, Means and Love were fine value pickups for every edge and corner of James Bettcher's defense. That foursome helped them to rebound and land in the middle of the pack. 17. Green Bay Packers whom they drafted, DT/DeRashawn Gary, S. Darnell Savage, CG Elgton Jenkins, TJ Sternberger, De Kingsley Kiki, CB Catter Holman, Airbay Dexter Williams, ILB Ty Summers. The Packers under Brian Gutekunst dived right in for high-risk, high-reward players early, but they diversified their portfolio well with safer picks later in Jenkins, Sternberger, and Williams. If Gary and Savage pan out, then this class will wind up being near the top versus being slightly above average. Grade, C+18. Indianapolis Colts whom they drafted, CB Rock Yashin, DeBen Banogu, WR Paris Campbell, OLB Bobby Akarake, S. Kari Willis, S. Marvel Tell, ILBJ, Speed, DeJerry Green, Ott Jackson Barton, C. Javon Patterson. Chris Ballard did well marching to his own drumbeat last year, getting Darius Leonard and others who helped lead the Colts' turnaround. Yashin and Banogu started the run on defensive depth, but the haul might be more quantity over quality. The best move was adding the speedy Campbell to pair with Andrew Luck. 19. Detroit Lions whom they drafted, TJ Hawkinson, Pound Jalani Tave, S. Will Harris, Dawson Bryant, CB Amani Oruwari, WR Travis Fulgham, Airbay Ty Johnson, CB Amani Oruwari, Tay Isaac Nada, DTPJ Johnson. Bob Quinn made it clear the Lions want to embrace their physical identity based on running and defensive success. Hawkinson was a home run for blocking and receiving, and although there were some reaches for the front seven and secondary, they got several versatile players Matt Patricia can mold well. 20. San Francisco 49ers whom they drafted, Nick Bosa, WR Debo Samuel, WR Jalen Hurd, P. Mitch Wishnowsky, OLB Dre Greenlaw, Tay Caden Smith, OT Justin School, CB Tim Harris. John Lynch started with the no-brainer pick of Bosa, the best overall talent in the draft, giving the 49ers a good base. He got creative with Samuel and Hurd, and Smith was good value late. This class pales in comparison to Lynch's recent work, however. 21. Cleveland Browns whom they drafted, CB Greedy Williams, OLB Sion Takataki, S. Sheldrick Redwine, ILB Mac Wilson, K. Austin Siebert, G. Drew Forbes, CB Donnie Lewis. The Browns didn't need a first-round pick to get a first-round corner in the falling Williams. Wilson was their next great pick. He should have never been on the board that long. Otherwise, this draft didn't feel nearly as good as what John Dorsey was able to pull off in free agency. Bender, Greedy a second-round steal for Dorsey. 22. New Orleans Saints whom they drafted, C. Eric McCoy, S. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, S. Saquon Hampton, Tay Ollies Mack, Pound Caden Ellis. Mickey Loomis and the Saints had very limited volume, but got their new starting center and stole Gardner-Johnson and Mack to address other needs to finish above average. Grade, C23. Seattle Seahawks whom they drafted, DeLJ Collier, S. Marquise Blair, WRDK Metcalf, OLB Cody Barton, WR Gary Jennings, G. Phil Haynes, CB Ugo Amadi, ILB Ben Burke-Irvin, Airbay Travis Homer, DT DeMarcus Christmas, WR John Ursua. This was another mixed bag for John Schneider and Pete Carroll. Metcalf was the clear best pick given how late they got the first-round talent, who may be more of a necessity with Doug Baldwin's future uncertain. The Seahawks did their own thing and made their defense deeper, but they still reached often, starting with Collier. 24. Atlanta Falcons whom they drafted, G. Chris Lindstrom, A. Caleb McGarry, CB Kendall Sheffield, DeJohn Kaminsky, Airbay Kadri Ellison, CB Jordan Miller, WR Marcus Green. Lindstrom and McGarry were good pickups as Thomas Dimitrov addressed tertiary needs on the offensive line, but they came at the cost of missing out on some top secondary talent. The Falcons also could have dived into defensive line options for better value. 25. Miami Dolphins, whom they drafted: DT Christian Wilkins, G. Michael Dieter, OLB Andrew Van Ginkel, Odd Isaiah Prince, Arabe Chandler Cox, Arabe Miles Gaskin. Chris Greer got a key defensive building block for Brian Flores in Wilkins. Dieter will be a solid run blocker for years to come. Miami is undergoing a massive rebuild, however, so there was a limited amount of moving the needle with limited value. 26. Chicago Bears, whom they drafted: Arabe David Montgomery, W.R. Riley Ridley, C.B. Duke Shelley, Arabe Gareth White, C.B. Stephen Denmark. The Bears knew they would be handcuffed after the Khalil Mack trade, so Sporting News Executive of the Year Ryan Pace did the best he could with what little he had. Montgomery and Ridley were good value picks and can contribute to the offense, but their selections ensured the class would be short on needed defensive pop. Grade, C27. Kansas City Chiefs, whom they drafted: W.R. McCole Hardman, S. Juan Thornhill, D.T. Cullen Saunders, C.B. Rashad Fenton, Arabe Darwin Thompson, G. Nick Allegretti. Brett Veach and Andy Reid had to change course with their draft plans after the news surrounding Tyreek Hill. They were forced to get Hardman, the only apt replacement on the board. The trade for Frank Clark took away the need to boost the edge pass rush, but they waited too long for help at corner. Steele, Chiefs put Hill exit strategy into motion. 28. Cincinnati Bengals, whom they drafted: Jonah Williams, Drew Sample, OLB Jermaine Pratt, QB Ryan Finley, DT Rennell Wren, G. Michael Jordan, Arabe Travion Williams, Pound Deshaun Davis, Arabe Rodney Anderson, CB Jordan Brown. The Bengals started with a bang with Williams, but after that, their picks to further usher in the Zach Taylor era were mostly unimpressive and uninspiring. Sample was a reach and they missed out on better linebackers. 29 Tennessee Titans, whom they drafted: DT Jeffrey Simmons, WRAJ Brown, G. Nate Davis, S. Amani Hooker, OLB DeAndre Walker, ILB David Long. The Titans drafted a little too much for 2020 with Simmons and Walker, and Davis was a bit of a reach. Being able to get Brown in the second round gave the usually wise drafting John Robinson some redemption. Grade, D30. Dallas Cowboys, whom they drafted: DT Tristan Hill, G. Connor McGovern, Arabe Tony Pollard, CB Michael Jackson, DeJoe Jackson, S. Donovan Wilson, Arabe Mike Weber, Jalen Jelks. The Cowboys started late in the draft because of the Amari Cooper trade. They didn't yield great defensive returns and selected too much for depth early before diving into their true needs later. Jerry Jones and his scouting staff fell well short of their past best efforts. 31 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whom they drafted: ILB Devin White, CB Sean Bunting, CB Jamel Dean, S. Mike Edwards, Anthony Nelson, K. Matt Gay, WR Scott Miller, DT Terry Beckner Jr. Somehow, the Bucs managed to finish all the way down here even after the terrific pick of White in the first round. They overloaded and reached on defensive backs, somehow took a kicker too early, 3 years after the Roberto Aguayo disaster, and didn't address offensive line and edge pass rush to the level they should have. 32 Los Angeles Rams, whom they drafted: S. Taylor Rapp, Arabe Darrell Henderson, CB David Long, Bobby Evans, DT Greg Gaines, David Edwards, S. Nick Scott, Pound Dakota Allen. Let's just say this is a 180 from the superstar free agent haul Lace Snead gathered in the 2018 offseason to turn the Rams into NFC champions. The Rams strangely ignored their need to boost their interior offensive line and edge pass rush early. Rapp and Henderson have real bust potential and both Long and Evans were reaches, leaving Gaines as their one truly okay pick. Let's block ads. Why?